Good evening. Let me begin by expressing my thanks to the sponsoring organizations for the invitation to participate in tonight's debate. This is our first visit to New Zealand, and my wife Jan and I have just been delighted at the beauty of your country as well as the hospitality that you've shown to us. We have been overwhelmed by how friendly and warm everyone is, and it's just been a good experience. I'm also grateful for Bill Cooke's willingness to join in tonight's debate, and it's my hope that our discussion this evening will be a real help to you in your own thinking about these important questions. Now, being technologically challenged myself, I'm going to be assisted by the talented and lovely Madeline Flanagan in showing a PowerPoint that is connected with my opening speech. In asking the question, is God a delusion, it's imperative right from the start that we define our terms clearly. The dictionary definition of a delusion is a false belief or opinion. Accordingly, in tonight's debate, I'm going to defend two basic contentions. First, that there's no good reason to think that belief in God is false. And second, that there are good reasons to think that belief in God is true. Consider then my first contention, that there's no good reason to think that belief in God is false. If Bill Cooke is to persuade us that belief in God is a delusion, then he must provide some reasons to think that belief in God is false. Now, rather than attack straw men at this point, I'll just wait to hear Dr. Cooke's arguments against God's existence, and then I'll respond to them in my next speech. But I simply note in passing that if he is to justify an affirmative answer to tonight's question, then he does owe us such arguments. So let's turn instead to my second main contention, that there are good reasons to think that God exists. In line with an increasing number of philosophers, I'm persuaded that there really are good reasons to think that God exists. Let me just sketch briefly some of these reasons. First, God is the best explanation of the origin of the universe. Have you ever asked yourself why the universe exists? Why anything at all exists instead of just nothing? Well, typically atheists have said that the universe is just eternal and uncaused. But there are good reasons, both philosophically and scientifically, to doubt that this is the case. Philosophically, the idea of an infinite past seems absurd. Just think about it. If the universe never had a beginning, then the series of past events in the history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the existence of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions. For example, what is infinity minus infinity? Well, mathematically, you get self-contradictory answers. This shows that infinity is just an idea in your mind, not something that exists in reality. David Hilbert, who was perhaps the greatest mathematician of the 20th century, wrote, "The infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea." But that entails that since past events are not just ideas but are real, the number of past events must be finite. And therefore the series of past events can't go back forever. Rather, the universe must have begun to exist. This conclusion has been confirmed by remarkable discoveries in astronomy and astrophysics. In one of the most startling developments of modern science, we now have pretty strong evidence that the universe is not eternal in the past, but had an absolute beginning about 13 billion years ago in a cataclysmic event known as the Big Bang. What makes the Big Bang so startling is that it represents the origin of the universe from literally nothing. For all matter and energy, even physical space and time themselves, came into being at the Big Bang. As the physicist P.C.W. Davies explains, the coming into being of the universe, as discussed in modern science, is not just a matter of imposing some sort of organization upon a previous incoherent state, but literally the coming into being of all physical things from nothing. Now, of course, alternative theories have been crafted over the years to try to avoid this absolute beginning. But none of these theories has commended itself to the scientific community as more plausible than the Big Bang theory. In fact, in 2003, Arvind Borde, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin were able to prove that any universe, which is, on average, in a state of cosmic expansion, cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning. Vilenkin pulls no punches. He writes, "It is said that an argument is what convinces reasonable men, and a proof is what it takes to convince even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning." That problem was nicely captured by Anthony Kenny of Oxford University. He writes, "A proponent of the Big Bang theory, at least if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing." But surely that doesn't make sense. For such a conclusion is, in the words of philosopher of science, Bruno Königscheider, in head-on collision with the most successful ontological commitment in the history of science, namely the metaphysical principle that out of nothing, nothing comes. So, why does the universe exist instead of just nothing? Where did it come from? There must have been a cause which brought the universe into being. We can summarize our argument thus far as follows. 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist. 3. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Now, as the cause of time and space, this being must be an uncaused, timeless, spaceless, immaterial being of unfathomable power. Moreover, it must be personal as well. Why? Because this cause must be beyond space and time. Therefore, it cannot be physical or material. Now, there are only two kinds of things that fit that description. Either abstract objects like numbers, or else an intelligent, unembodied mind. But abstract objects can't cause anything, and therefore it follows that the cause of the universe is a transcendent personal mind. Number 2, God is the best explanation of the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. In recent decades, scientists have been stunned by the discovery that the initial conditions of the Big Bang were fine-tuned for the existence of intelligent life with a complexity and delicacy that literally defy human comprehension. This fine-tuning is of two sorts. First, when the laws of nature are expressed as mathematical equations, you find appearing in them certain constants, such as the gravitational constant. These constants are not determined by the laws of nature. The laws of nature are consistent with a wide range of values of these constants. Secondly, in addition to these constants, there are certain arbitrary quantities, which are just put in as initial conditions